A man in a charcoal suit slid a laminated birth certificate across the gate desk like it was a corporate merger he needed signed in 60 seconds. Helena Prado didn't look up from her phone. Gate B12 at Hartsfield-Jackson smelled like burnt coffee and recycled air, and she had 40 minutes before her own flight to Savannah. Plenty of time to review the eviction appeal she'd filed that morning. The stakes weren't abstract. 12 families, $340K in back rent the landlord claimed but couldn't document, and a hearing in 72 hours that would either keep roofs overhead or scatter people across 3 counties. Then the man spoke. "I need you to say you're his mother." She glanced up. The guy was maybe 38, clean-shaven, dark hair starting to silver at the temples. Behind him stood a boy, 7, maybe 8, clutching a stuffed elephant with one ear missing. The kid's eyes were red-rimmed, his breathing shallow and quick. The birth certificate said Lucas Arendt Jr., born March 14, 2018. Mother, deceased. Helena set her phone down and met the man's gaze. He wasn't asking. He was calculating. Gate B12 sat at the end of Concourse D, where the carpet frayed and the departure monitors flickered between cities Helena had never visited. She'd been here since dawn, routing through Atlanta because direct flights from Charleston didn't exist on a pro bono budget. Her canvas tote leaked paper clips onto the seat beside her. Her boots, scuffed, resoled twice, didn't match the business travelers streaming past with roller bags and noise-canceling headphones. Helena Prado specialized in tenants' rights and family court overflow. She did not specialize in whatever this was. "You need to clarify," she said, voice level. "Right now." The man, Lucas Arendt, she presumed, crouched so he was eye level with the boy. "Luca, stay here, I'll be 1 minute." He straightened and gestured toward the hallway leading to the restrooms. Helena followed, counting her own heartbeats to keep from glancing back at the kid. They stopped beside a charging station. Lucas pulled out his phone and opened a document. Priority Medical Transfer Authorization, signed by a Dr. Patel at Emory Children's Hospital. The flight was Dallas-bound, departure in 31 minutes. "His airways compromised," Lucas said quietly. "Allergic reaction escalating. EpiPen bought us 2 hours. Dallas has the specialist, but the gate agent won't let him board without a legal guardian signature. Mine's flagged because my ex-nanny filed an emergency custody motion yesterday. Some jurisdictional stall tactic. I can't sign. You can." Helena touched the leather cord around her wrist, a bracelet her father had worn through 3 decades of civil rights work in the Carolina Low Country. It was the only thing he'd left her that still felt like truth. "That's identity fraud. That's my son's life." They returned to Gate B12. The agent, a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a beaded chain, was printing boarding passes for a family of 4. Lucas sat exactly where Lucas had left him, elephant tucked under his chin, one hand pressed to his throat. Helena knelt in front of the boy. "Hey, I'm Helena. What's the elephant's name?" Lucas' voice came out raspy. "Clarence. Good name." She studied his face, pale, sweating, but steady. No panic. That meant Lucas wasn't lying about the timeline. Kids this young didn't fake calm. She stood and turned to Lucas. "Show me the custody motion." He pulled it up. Case No. FC 2025-8847. Filed 6:47 p.m. the previous evening in Fulton County Family Court. Petitioner, Vanessa Hargrave, former nanny. Grounds, alleged parental neglect, failure to maintain safe living conditions, refusal to comply with agreed visitation. The hearing was set for Monday, 4 days out. The motion requested an emergency stay on Lucas's custodial authority pending review. Helena scrolled to the exhibits. Photos of Luca's bedroom, unmade bed, clothes on the floor, a juice box tipped over on the nightstand. Standard 7-year-old chaos framed as endangerment. "She's reaching," Helena said. "She's stalling." Lucas glanced at the monitor. 28 minutes to departure. "Vanessa knows about the surgery window. If we miss this flight, the next available specialist consult is 9 days out. His airway could close before then." Helena opened her own phone and pulled up the Georgia Bar Association directory. She found Lucas Arendt, licensed attorney, inactive status since 2019. CEO of Arendt Global Solutions, a logistics firm with offices in 14 countries. Net worth somewhere north of $600 million if the brief Forbes mention she'd seen last year was accurate. A woman in a red cashmere scarf approached the gate desk. Mid-40s, blonde, angular. She didn't get in line. She positioned herself 3 feet from Lucas and took out her phone, angling it toward Luca. "Vanessa," Lucas said quietly. The woman didn't respond. She tapped her screen twice, then slipped the phone back into her purse. She adjusted her scarf, a deliberate slow motion like she was marking territory. Helena's pulse kicked up. This wasn't about custody. This was about control. Helena pulled Lucas aside again, this time near the window overlooking the tarmac. A 737 taxied past, engines whining. "If I do this," she said, "we document everything. I'm not fabricating. I'm acting as temporary emergency guardian under implied consent, and you're going to write that down. Right now." Lucas nodded. He opened a notes app and started typing. Helena dictated, "I, Lucas Arendt, authorize Helena Prado to act as temporary custodial representative for Lucas Arendt Jr. for the sole purpose of securing medical transport on Delta Flight 1847, November 7, 2025, due to jurisdictional interference preventing my signature. This authorization is limited to gate boarding and in-flight supervision. It terminates upon arrival in Dallas at 12:14 p.m. local time. Signed, Lucas Arendt." He added a timestamp, 9:17 a.m. EST, and his bar license number. Helena took a screenshot. "If anyone asks later, this is our audit trail. We're not lying. We're navigating a paperwork gap. Understood. One more thing." She met his eyes. "I don't do press. I don't do photos. If this turns into a story, I'm out. My clients can't afford the distraction, and neither can I." Lucas extended his hand. "You have my word. Policy PR 12.3. No public statements, no media, no images without written consent." She shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm. She let go and walked back to the gate desk. The agent looked up. "Are you traveling with the Arendt party?" "Yes," Helena said. She handed over her ID and the birth certificate. "Helena Prado. I'm Luca's temporary guardian for this flight." The agent scanned her license, then studied the birth certificate. Her gaze flicked to Vanessa, who had moved closer. Scarf adjusted again. Same slow pull, same angle. Then back to Helena. "I'll need verbal confirmation from the child." Helena glanced at Lucas. He gave a slight nod. She crouched beside Luca again. "Luca, the nice lady needs to hear you say it's okay for me to fly with you to Dallas. Is that okay?" Luca looked at his father, then at Helena. He touched Clarence's remaining ear, then nodded. "Okay." The agent printed 3 boarding passes. "Gate closes in 12 minutes. Have a safe flight." Vanessa stepped forward. "Excuse me, I'd like to file a complaint. That woman has no legal standing." The agent didn't blink. "Ma'am, if you have a custody dispute, you'll need to contact airport security or legal services. I can't adjudicate that here." Vanessa's jaw tightened. She pulled her scarf taut one more time, then turned and walked toward the security checkpoint exit. Lucas picked up Luca, elephant and all, and headed for the jetway. Helena followed, her father's bracelet warm against her skin. They boarded early, priority seating for medical passengers. Lucas carried Luca down the aisle and Helena trailed with both their bags. A flight attendant in a Navy uniform directed them to row 8, window, middle, aisle. Lucas took the window with Luca on his lap, and Helena settled into the aisle seat. The plane filled slowly. A businessman in row 9 typed on a laptop. A couple in their 60s across the aisle shared a bag of trail mix, normal Thursday morning rhythms, oblivious to the fact that 10 minutes earlier a woman had tried to weaponize a gate desk. Luca's breathing had steadied, but Lucas kept one hand on his son's back, counting each inhale. Helena watched out of the corner of her eye. The gesture was automatic, practiced. This wasn't the first time Lucas had monitored his kid's respiratory rate in public. "How long has he had the allergy?" she asked quietly. "Diagnosed at 4. Tree nuts, shellfish, Usually manageable, but he had a granola bar this morning that wasn't labeled properly. My fault. Not your fault. Labeling regulations are a mess. Lucas almost smiled. You sound like a lawyer. I am a lawyer, just not the kind you're used to. What kind am I used to? The kind who bill by the quarter hour and have secretaries who screen calls. This time he did smile, brief, tired. I used to be that kind. Then Luca's mom died, and I realized I didn't actually know how to make a grilled cheese. The plane doors closed. The flight attendant began the safety demo. Luca leaned against his father's chest, eyes half closed, Clarence tucked under his chin. Helena checked her phone one last time before switching to airplane mode. 12 missed calls from her office, 3 from the landlord's attorney, 1 from a journalist who'd been covering the eviction case. She silenced it and slipped it into her bag. Rough morning? Lucas asked. Rough year. The plane pushed back from the gate. Helena glanced out the window and saw Vanessa standing just inside the terminal, phone raised, filming the plane as it taxied. The red scarf was a bright slash against the gray concourse. Lucas saw it too. His jaw tightened. She's documenting. Let her. We have better documentation. The plane turned toward the runway, and Vanessa disappeared from view. They landed in Dallas at 11:52 a.m., 22 minutes ahead of schedule. Luca had slept most of the flight, waking only once when turbulence jolted the cabin. Lucas had bought Helena a coffee during drink service, and she'd bought him a bag of pretzels, and somewhere over Louisiana they'd started talking about logistics. The hospital was 30 minutes from DFW. Dr. Patel had a consult slot at 1 p.m. The specialist had pioneered a minimally invasive procedure that reduced recovery time from 6 weeks to 10 days. How long will you stay? Helena asked as the plane taxied to the gate. Depends on the consult. If they schedule surgery, maybe a week. And Vanessa's motion? I'll handle it remotely. I have a family attorney in Atlanta who's already drafting a response. He hesitated. But I owe you more than a coffee. Helena shouldered her bag. You don't owe me anything. You put your bar license on the line for a stranger's kid. I put my bar license on the line for a kid who needed help. That's the job. They deplaned into the bright, sterile corridor of Terminal D. Luca walked between them now, one hand in his father's, the other clutching Clarence. His color had improved, less gray, more pink, but his steps were still careful, measured. At baggage claim, Lucas's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression went flat. What? Helena asked. He turned the phone toward her. An email from Vanessa sent 20 minutes earlier. Subject, documentation for family court review. Attached, 3 photos. The first showed Helena and Lucas at the gate desk. The second showed them boarding the plane. The third, a zoomed shot through the terminal window, showed Helena's hand on Lucas' shoulder as they walked down the jetway. The email text read, Unauthorized guardian claim, potential fraud, forwarding to Fulton County DA. Helena's stomach dropped. She touched her bracelet. Her father had faced false accusations twice in his career, both times weaponized by landlords trying to shut down tenant organizing. He'd kept meticulous records, and both times the accusations had collapsed under scrutiny. Do you have the note I dictated? She asked. Lucas opened his phone and pulled up the screenshot. Right here, timestamped 9:17 a.m. Good. Forward it to me. And get me the pediatric transfer authorization from Dr. Patel, original, with signature and hospital stamp. We're going to need chain of custody if this escalates. Lucas nodded. His respect had shifted, no longer transactional, no longer urgent, just steady. A text notification lit up Helena's phone. Her office manager forwarding a voicemail from the landlord's attorney. Settlement offer on the table. She'd deal with it later. Let's get Luca to the hospital, she said. They headed for the exit, and Helena didn't look back. The hospital was a glass and steel tower in North Dallas, the kind of place where the lobby felt more like a hotel than a medical center. Luca checked in at pediatric registration, and a nurse in floral scrubs led him and Lucas to an exam room on the 4th floor. Helena waited in the family lounge, reviewing the eviction case on her laptop and trying not to calculate how many billable hours she was bleeding by being here. 40 minutes later, Lucas returned. He looked lighter, shoulders less rigid, jaw less tight. They're admitting him overnight for observation, but Dr. Patel thinks we caught it early enough. Surgery's not urgent. We'll schedule it for next month when the swelling's fully down. Helena closed her laptop. That's good news. Yeah. He sat across from her, hands clasped between his knees. Listen, about the email Vanessa sent. I talked to my attorney. She's going to file a motion to dismiss the custody claim and counter with evidence of harassment. But the DA thing, that's trickier. It's not trickier. It's baseless. Helena opened her phone and pulled up the authorization note. We have this. We have the pediatric letter. We have the gate agent who processed us. If Vanessa wants to push it, she'll have to explain why she was filming a minor in medical distress instead of helping. Lucas studied her for a long moment. You've done this before. Done what? Called a bluff. Helena thought of her father, standing in a courtroom in 1987, holding up a stack of rent receipts while a landlord insisted no payments had been made. The landlord had doubled down, tripled down, until the judge asked for bank records. The receipts had matched, down to the penny. Evidence doesn't bluff, she said. Lucas's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, frowned, then showed her the screen. Another email from Vanessa. This time the subject line read, Gate B12 security footage request filed. Helena's pulse kicked up, not panic, but recognition. Vanessa wasn't stalling anymore. She was escalating. She requested the CCTV, Helena asked, from TSA and the airport authority. Filed an hour ago. Helena stood. Good. Let her have it. That footage will show you carrying Luca, me walking beside you, and the gate agent processing our boarding passes without objection. It'll also show Vanessa standing there filming instead of offering help. Lucas stood too. You're sure? Helena touched her bracelet. The leather was worn smooth from 3 decades of her father's grip, then hers. I'm sure. But I need you to get me every document you have. The pediatric letter, the boarding passes, the timestamp on that authorization note, and any communication between you and Vanessa in the last 72 hours. We're going to lock this down before she tries to twist it. He nodded. I'll pull it tonight. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Mr. Arendt, Luca's asking for you. Lucas turned to Helena. Will you stay? At least until we know the DA's not actually going to pursue this? Helena checked her watch. It was 2:47 p.m. Her flight back to Charleston left at 7:15. She'd miss it if she stayed much longer. But Luca's face, pale, steady, trusting, flashed in her mind, and the way Vanessa had adjusted that red scarf, slow and deliberate, like a signature on a threat. I'll stay, Helena said. Lucas exhaled. Thank you. He followed the nurse back toward the exam rooms, and Helena returned to her laptop. She opened a new document and started typing, Timeline of Events, Gate B12, November 7th, 2025. But her mind was already 2 steps ahead, cataloging inconsistencies in Vanessa's story. The custody motion filed at 6:47 p.m., after business hours. The photos taken at the gate, calculated angles, zoomed shots. The security footage request, filed within 90 minutes of landing. Vanessa wasn't reacting. She was executing a plan. Helena saved the document and pulled up the Georgia Family Court filing system. She found case number FC 2025-8847 and started reading the full motion. Page 3 mentioned a witness, someone who'd allegedly seen Lucas leave the child unattended at a grocery store in Buckhead 2 weeks earlier. The witness's name, Claire Mendoza, former housekeeper. Helena's father had taught her to recognize patterns. 1 accuser was a grievance. 2 was a conspiracy. She pulled up her phone and texted Lucas. Need employment records for Vanessa Hargrave and Claire Mendoza. Start and end dates, termination reasons. Also any NDAs. His reply came 30 seconds later. On it. Helena leaned back in her chair and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't about Luca anymore. This was about something else, something Vanessa wanted and Lucas had refused to give. And that red scarf kept looping through her mind, slow and deliberate, like a countdown she couldn't quite hear yet. At 4:30 p.m., a nurse told Helena that Luca was stable and sleeping, and that Lucas had stepped out to make calls. Helena found him on the 5th-floor rooftop terrace, a narrow strip of concrete with metal benches and a view of the Dallas skyline turning amber in the late sun. He was leaning against the railing, phone in one hand, the other rubbing the back of his neck. When he heard her footsteps, he straightened but didn't turn around. "Employment records sent," he said. "Vanessa worked for us 18 months. Claire, 11. Both signed NDAs. Both terminated for cause." Helena sat on the bench. "What cause?" Lucas finally turned. His tie was loosened, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked like someone who'd been holding his breath for hours and had just now remembered to exhale. "Vanessa stole from us. Small things at first. Jewelry, cash from my wallet. Then she started using my credit card for online purchases. I didn't catch it until the statements showed $11K in charges I didn't recognize. Claire knew about it and didn't say anything. I let them both go quietly, paid severance, signed the NDAs to avoid drama. And now Vanessa's filing for custody. He sat beside her, elbows on his knees. "My attorney thinks it's leverage for a settlement. Vanessa knows I can't afford a drawn-out court battle, not with Luca's health, not with the company in the middle of a merger. She's betting I'll pay her to go away." Helena thought of the eviction case. 12 families the landlord had bet wouldn't fight back because fighting back cost time and money they didn't have. The landlord had been wrong. How much is she asking? She hasn't named a number yet. But her attorney sent a draft settlement last night. $250K, mutual non-disparagement, and joint custody with her having primary physical placement. Helena's jaw tightened. "That's not leverage. That's extortion." "That's what my attorney said." Lucas leaned back, staring at the sky. "But proving it is different from saying it." Helena pulled her laptop from her bag and opened the timeline she'd started in the lounge. "Walk me through the day she was terminated. Date, time, what you said, what she said, who else was present." Lucas recounted it. September 14th, 2025, 3 p.m. in the study of his Buckhead townhouse. He'd confronted Vanessa with the credit card statements. She'd denied it, then blamed Claire, then finally admitted to borrowing the card but claimed she'd intended to pay it back. Lucas had asked her to leave immediately. Claire had been upstairs with Luca and had come down when she heard raised voices. Lucas had let Claire go the next morning after confirming she'd known about the thefts and hadn't reported them. "Did you document any of it?" Helena asked. "I kept the credit card statements. I have the termination letters I sent both of them, certified mail, signed receipts." "Good. I need copies. Also, any communication between you and Vanessa after the termination. Texts, emails, voicemails." Lucas pulled out his phone and started scrolling. His expression shifted, surprise, then something closer to dread. "What?" Helena asked. He turned the phone toward her. A text thread with Vanessa, dated October 20th, 18 days ago. The messages were short, clipped. "Vanessa, I need to talk about Luca." "Lucas, we have nothing to discuss." "Vanessa, you'll regret that." Helena screenshotted it. "This is good. It establishes a timeline of escalation. It also makes me look like I was ignoring a legitimate concern." "No, it makes her look like she was threatening you." Lucas stood and walked back to the railing. The sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows across the terrace. "My wife died 3 years ago. Car accident. Luca was 4. I didn't know how to be a single parent. I barely knew how to be a parent at all. I hired Vanessa because she had references, experience, and Luca liked her. For a while, it worked. Then it didn't." He pulled something from his pocket, a photo, creased and faded. He handed it to Helena. The image showed a woman with dark hair and Luca's same steady eyes, holding an infant Luca on a beach somewhere. She was laughing, head thrown back, one hand shielding her eyes from the sun. On her wrist, a leather bracelet identical to the one Helena wore. Helena's breath caught. Where did she get this? I gave it to her. It was my father's. He was a union organizer in Pittsburgh in the 70s, died when I was 10. My mom gave it to me and I gave it to Rachel when Luca was born. She wore it every day until the accident. I found it in her hospital belongings. He paused. I gave yours to Luca last year. He wanted something that felt like his mom. I had two, one from my dad, one from Rachel's dad. Luca wears his on a chain under his shirt. Helena looked down at her own bracelet, her father's, from his civil rights work. She'd assumed it was unique. Now it felt like a thread connecting strangers across decades. Why are you telling me this? She asked quietly. Lucas met her eyes. Because you asked why I can't let Vanessa win. That's why. She's not just trying to take my son. She's trying to rewrite what Rachel and I built. And I won't let her. Helena handed the photo back. Then we build a case she can't rewrite. At 6:15 p.m., Helena's phone buzzed with an email from Lucas's family attorney, copied to both of them. Subject: motion to dismiss. Supporting evidence. The attachments included credit card statements showing $11,347 in unauthorized charges between July and September 2025, flagged by Lucas's bank on September 12th. Termination letters sent to Vanessa Hargrave and Claire Mendoza via certified mail, with USPS tracking confirmations and signed receipts dated September 14th and 15th. Text thread between Lucas and Vanessa, October 20th, time-stamped 8:42 p.m. EST. A notarized affidavit from Lucas's housekeeper, Maria Ruiz, stating she had witnessed Vanessa accessing Lucas's home office without permission on August 30th, 2025, and removing items from his desk. Helena opened each file and cross-referenced the dates. The pattern was clean. Theft documented, termination executed, threats escalated, custody motion filed. Vanessa's strategy wasn't subtle. It was desperation dressed as authority. But something nagged at Helena. She scrolled back to the custody motion and reread the section about the alleged grocery store incident. The witness, Claire Mendoza, claimed she'd seen Lucas leave Luca unattended in the parking lot of a Whole Foods in Buckhead on October 25th, 2025. Helena pulled up her own notes. October 25th was a Friday. She texted Lucas. Where were you on Friday, Oct. 25, between 4-6 p.m.? His reply came 2 minutes later. Luca had a soccer game in Marietta. I have the team schedule and photos. Helena's pulse quickened. If Lucas had been at a soccer game 30 minutes from Buckhead, Claire's story couldn't hold. But proving it required more than a schedule. It required witnesses, timestamps, and locations that couldn't be disputed. She called Lucas. He answered on the first ring. I need everything from that soccer game. Photos, videos, other parents who saw you, the coach's contact info, and I need your phone's location data for that day. I'll pull the photos now. Location data. I'd have to request it from my carrier. Do it. Request October 20th through November 1. Full GPS log with timestamps. You think she's lying about the grocery store? I think she's lying about everything. But we prove it one fact at a time. Lucas exhaled. Helena, why are you doing this? You could have walked away in Dallas. Helena looked at her bracelet. Her father had spent 30 years fighting landlords who thought poor tenants wouldn't fight back. He'd won most of those fights not because he was louder, but because he was more meticulous. Because walking away means Vanessa wins, she said, and I don't let bullies win. She hung up and opened a new document. Evidence log. Aren't custody dispute. She started cataloging every piece of proof they had, cross-referencing dates and sources. An hour later, Lucas forwarded her 18 photos from the soccer game, all time-stamped between 4:47 p.m. and 5:53 p.m. on October 25th. In 3 of the photos, other parents' faces were visible. In one, the coach was shaking Lucas's hand beside the field. Helena zoomed in on the backgrounds, looking for landmarks. A church steeple, a street sign, Delk Road, a digital scoreboard showing the time, 5:21 p.m. She pulled up Google Maps and confirmed. The soccer field was in Marietta, 28 miles from the Whole Foods in Buckhead, where Claire claimed Lucas had been. Even in light traffic, the drive took 35 minutes. Claire's story wasn't just weak, it was impossible. Helena saved the photos and added them to the evidence log. Then she opened the gate boarding passes from that morning. Delta Flight 1847, printed at 9:19 a.m. Est. The passes listed Helena Prado as the accompanying adult for Lucas Arendt Jr., Seat 8B. Below that, in small print, medical priority boarding, authorization required. She screenshotted the passes and added them to the log. Then she pulled up the authorization note Lucas had dictated at the gate, time-stamped 9:17 a.m. 3 pieces of proof, layered and cross-referenced. Not fabricated, documented. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. "Luca's asking for you." Helena closed her laptop and headed back to the exam room. When she arrived, Luca was sitting up in bed, Clarence tucked under one arm, the other hand fiddling with something on a chain around his neck. A leather bracelet, identical to hers, threaded through a silver clasp. "You have one too," he said when he saw her. Helena touched her wrist. "I do. My dad gave it to me." "My dad gave me mine. He said it means you remember what's true." Helena sat on the edge of the bed. "Your dad's right." Luca's eyes were clearer now, his breathing even. He looked like a kid who'd been scared and was starting to believe he might be okay. "Are you going to stay?" he asked. Helena glanced at Lucas, who stood by the window, arms crossed, watching them both. "For now," she said. Luca nodded and settled back into the pillows. Within minutes, he was asleep. Lucas walked Helena to the hallway. "I can't ask you to keep doing this." "You're not asking. I'm choosing." He studied her for a long moment. "I don't know how to repay you. Win this case, that's how." They stood in silence, the hospital humming around them, monitors beeping, carts rattling, a voice over the intercom calling a code somewhere on the 3rd floor. Finally, Lucas said, "If we pull this off, I owe you dinner. Somewhere that doesn't serve burnt coffee and recycled air." Helena almost smiled. "I'll hold you to that." At 9:30 p.m., Helena's phone lit up with an email from the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Subject: Re-inquiry, potential identity fraud, case ref, 2025 ATL 9384. She opened it. The message was brief. "Ms. Prado, we have received a complaint from Vanessa Hargrave regarding events at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport on November 7, 2025. Specifically, allegations that you falsely represented yourself as the legal guardian of a minor child, Lucas Arendt Jr., in order to facilitate unauthorized travel. Please respond within 48 hours with documentation supporting your authority to act on behalf of said minor. Failure to respond may result in referral to the Georgia State Bar for ethics review." Helena's stomach tightened. She'd expected this. Vanessa had telegraphed it in the emails, but seeing it formalized, with a case reference number and a deadline, made it real. She forwarded the email to Lucas with a single line. "We need to respond by Sunday at 9:30 p.m. Start gathering everything." His reply came immediately. "Already on it." Helena pulled up the evidence log and started drafting a response. She needed 3 things: documentation of the medical emergency, proof of Lucas's authorization, and witness corroboration that the gate agent had processed them without objection. She opened the pediatric transfer letter from Dr. Patel. The letter was dated November 7, 2025, signed at 7:42 a.m. Est, and stamped with the Emory Children's Hospital seal. It stated, "Lucas Arendt, Jr., DOB 03-14-2018, requires urgent specialist consultation in Dallas, TX, for escalating allergic reaction with airway compromise. Priority medical transport authorized. Contact Dr. Anjali Patel, Pediatric Allergy and Immunology, 404-555-0147. Helena added the letter to her response draft. Then she pulled up the authorization note Lucas had dictated at 9:17 a.m., screenshot time-stamped. She added that too. But she needed more. She needed the gate agent's name and a statement confirming the boarding process had been legitimate. She called Delta customer service and spent 20 minutes navigating automated menus before reaching a human. She explained the situation: medical emergency, custody dispute, need for gate agent verification, and was transferred to the Atlanta Airport Operations Desk. The operations supervisor, a man named Carl Jennings, listened without interrupting, then put her on hold for 8 minutes. When he came back, his tone had shifted from bureaucratic to cautious. "Ms. Prado, I pulled the records for gate B12 on November 7th. The agent who processed your party was Linda Marsh, 23 years with Delta. She logged your boarding as medical priority with temporary guardian authorization, which is standard protocol for emergency situations. Her notes say she verbally confirmed consent with the minor and processed the boarding passes at 9:19 a.m. Helena grabbed her pen. "Can I get a copy of those logs? I can send them to your email, but they'll include passenger manifest data, so I'll need a written request citing legal necessity." "I'll send it now. What's your email?" He gave it to her, and Helena typed out the request while still on the phone, citing the DA inquiry and attaching the complaint email. She sent it at 9:47 p.m. Carl's confirmation arrived 12 minutes later. A PDF with 3 pages of gate logs, passenger manifests, and Linda Marsh's handwritten notes. Helena zoomed in on the notes. In neat block letters, Marsh had written, "Medical priority, child respiratory distress. Father auth blocked, custody dispute. Temp guardian H. Prado, verbal consent minor, boarded 0919 EST. No incident." Helena added the logs to her draft. Then she pulled up the boarding passes again and highlighted the authorization code printed at the bottom. MedPre 047, a youth temp guard, gate B12, 091902, EST 3 timestamps, 3 sources, 3 confirmations. She was building the triad without naming it, evidence that didn't need labels because it spoke for itself. At 10:03 p.m., her phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. "Got the GPS data. Sending now." The file was large. A month of location logs exported from his carrier, showing every place his phone had pinged a tower. Helena opened it and filtered for October 25th, 40 p.m. to 6 p.m. The data showed Lucas's phone at the soccer field in Marietta from 4:41 p.m. to 6:07 p.m., with GPS coordinates and cell tower triangulation. The margin of error, 30 meters. She cross-referenced the coordinates with the photos he'd sent earlier. The timestamps matched. The locations matched. Claire Mendoza's grocery store story didn't just fall apart. It disintegrated. Helena saved everything and returned to her draft response. She wrote for 2 hours, laying out the timeline, the documentation, and the witness corroboration. She attached the pediatric letter, the authorization note, the gate logs, the boarding passes, the GPS data, and the soccer photos. She cited Delta's medical priority protocol, Georgia's Good Samaritan laws, and the fact that no objection had been raised by any airport authority or law enforcement at the time of boarding. At 12:14 a.m., she saved the draft and leaned back in her chair. Her eyes burned, her neck ached, but the response was airtight. Her phone buzzed one more time. "Lucas. From the hospital. Lucas stable. Doctor says we can fly back to Atlanta tomorrow afternoon. How's the response?" Helena typed. "Almost done. We're going to be fine." She hit send, then added, "Get some sleep." His reply came 3 minutes later. "You too. And Helena, thank you. For all of it." Helena stared at the message. The words felt heavier than they should, weighted with something she couldn't quite name. She thought about walking away, getting on that 7:15 flight going back to Charleston, letting Lucas handle this with his own attorneys, but then she thought about Lucas' question, "Are you going to stay?" And her father's voice, steady and certain, "You stay until the work is done." She closed her laptop and set an alarm for 6:00 a.m. Helena woke to 17 missed calls. The first was from her office manager. The landlord in the eviction case had withdrawn the settlement offer, and filed a motion to dismiss Helena's appeal on procedural grounds. The hearing was now Monday at 9 a.m., 48 hours away, and Helena's lead witness had just been deported to Honduras. The second was from a journalist at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Someone had leaked the DA inquiry, and the story was running in Saturday's print edition under the headline "Pro Bono Attorney Accused of Gate Fraud in Custody Dispute." The third was from the Georgia State Bar Ethics Hotline, informing her that a formal complaint had been filed and that she had 10 business days to respond before a preliminary review hearing. Helena sat on the edge of the hotel bed. She'd checked into a Marriott near the hospital at 2 a.m. and stared at her phone. The calls kept coming. Her landlord asking about rent, a colleague asking if the news story was true, a family law professor from her law school days offering unsolicited advice about reputation management. She silenced the phone and opened the AJC article. The story was short, clinical, and devastating. It quoted sources close to the case, saying Helena had impersonated a legal guardian and circumvented custody protections to help a wealthy CEO evade court oversight. It mentioned Lucas's net worth. It mentioned Vanessa's allegations. It didn't mention the medical emergency, the pediatric letter, or the fact that no airport authority had questioned the boarding. The story ended with a line that made Helena's jaw clench. Prado, who specializes in tenants' rights cases, has not responded to requests for comment. Her phone buzzed. An email from her office. Meeting. Staff conduct review. Monday, 10 a.m. Agenda. Media policy compliance and client representation standards. Helena set the phone down and walked to the window. Dallas stretched out below. Highways and strip malls and industrial parks lit in cold fluorescent white. She thought about her father, standing in front of a judge in 1989, accused of tampering with rent records because a landlord had claimed the receipts were forged. Her father had brought the landlord's own ledgers to court, matched every entry, and walked out vindicated. But vindication took time, and time was something Helena no longer had. She pulled up the draft response to the DA and read it again. It was solid, meticulous, documented, defensible. But it didn't address the optics. It didn't explain why a tenants' rights attorney was helping a CEO in a custody fight. It didn't answer the question her own colleagues were probably asking. What was she thinking? Her phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. Just saw the AJC article. I'm calling my PR team. We'll issue a statement clarifying everything. Helena typed, no statements. That makes it worse. Lucas. Then what do we do? Helena stared at the message. She thought about the safe word they'd never formalized. The line Lucas had drawn when he'd said, if you want out, just say the word. She could walk away, file the DA response, let Lucas's attorneys handle the rest, go back to Charleston and salvage what was left of her practice. The eviction case still had a chance if she focused. The bar complaint might get dismissed if she stayed quiet and cooperative, but Vanessa would win, and Luca would lose. Helena looked at her bracelet, her father's, worn smooth from 3 decades of courtroom fights he shouldn't have had to fight. He'd never walked away. Not once. She typed, we finish what we started. Lucas. You sure? Helena hesitated. Her career was on the line. Her reputation. The 12 families depending on her in Charleston. But then she thought of Luca, asking, are you going to stay? She typed, I'm sure. She hit send, then opened her laptop and pulled up the evidence log. If she was going to fight, she needed to fight smart. She needed proof that didn't just defend her actions. It exposed Vanessa's. And that meant going back to the credit card statements. Helena spent the next 3 hours combing through every charge Vanessa had made. Sephora, Nordstrom, Amazon, Uber Eats, a boutique hotel in Savannah, a jewelry store in Buckhead. Most were personal purchases, easy to flag as theft, but 3 charges stood out. $847 to a private investigator in Atlanta, $1,200 to a family law attorney, not the one representing Vanessa now, and $340 to a document scanning service. Helena's pulse quickened. Vanessa hadn't just stolen money. She'd used it to build a case. She texted Lucas, "I need the name of the PI and the attorney Vanessa paid. Also, any idea what documents she had scanned?" His reply came 20 minutes later. PI, Grayson Holt, Atlanta. Attorney, Diane Kruger. She declined the case. No idea about documents. I didn't know she had access to anything worth scanning. Helena pulled up Grayson Holt's website. Standard private investigator services, surveillance, background checks, litigation support. She called the listed number and got a voicemail. She left a message identifying herself as Lucas Arendt's legal counsel and requesting copies of any reports Holt had prepared for Vanessa Hargrave. Then she called Diane Kruger. The receptionist said Kruger was unavailable, but Helena pushed, "This is regarding a custody case involving a minor child and potential fraud. Ms. Kruger consulted with the opposing party in August. I need to know why she declined representation." The receptionist put her on hold. 3 minutes later, Kruger picked up. "Ms. Prado, I can't discuss privileged communications. I'm not asking for details. I'm asking why you turned down the case." A pause. Then, "Because Ms. Hargrave's story didn't add up. She claimed Mr. Arendt was neglectful, but the evidence she provided was circumstantial at best. I told her she'd lose in court. She didn't like that answer." Helena's grip tightened on the phone. "Did she mention hiring another attorney?" "She said she'd find someone who believed her." Helena thanked her and hung up. Vanessa had shopped for an attorney who would take the case regardless of merit. That wasn't litigation. That was harassment. She added Kruger's statement to the evidence log, then returned to the credit card charges. The document scanning service, $340, had been paid on September 10th, 4 days before Lucas fired Vanessa. What documents had Vanessa scanned, and why? Helena's phone buzzed. An email from Grayson Holt, the PI, sent at 11:47 a.m. "Ms. Prado, I can confirm I was retained by Vanessa Hargrave in August 2025 to conduct surveillance on Lucas Arendt. My report documented no evidence of neglect, endangerment, or misconduct. I terminated the engagement after 2 weeks when Ms. Hargrave requested I fabricate findings. I have filed a complaint with the Georgia Board of Private Detectives. Attached is my final report." Helena opened the attachment. The report was 5 pages, time-stamped August 18th through August 30. It showed Lucas taking Luca to school, soccer practice, doctor's appointments, and the grocery store. Every observation was routine, unremarkable. The final line read, "No evidence supporting client's claims. Engagement terminated due to ethical concerns." Helena saved the report and added it to the log. Then she texted Lucas. "Vanessa tried to pay a PI to lie. He refused and filed a complaint. I have the report." Lucas, "That's huge." Helena, "It gets better. She also tried to hire an attorney who turned her down because the case was weak. Then she found someone who didn't care." Lucas, "Who's her attorney now?" Helena pulled up the custody motion and found the signature. Mark Delacroix, Esquire, Delacroix and Associates, Atlanta, GA. She Googled him. The firm's website listed practice areas: family law, personal injury, and aggressive advocacy. Client testimonials praised Delacroix for fighting when others won't and getting results no matter what. Helena's stomach turned. Delacroix wasn't a lawyer. He was a mercenary. She opened a new email and addressed it to the Fulton County DA, copying Lucas's family attorney. Subject: Inquiry, 2025, ATL 9384, additional evidence of malicious prosecution. She attached the PI report, Diane Kruger's statement, the credit card charges, and a timeline showing Vanessa's escalating pattern. Theft, termination, threat, fabricated surveillance request, attorney shopping, custody motion, gate harassment, DA complaint. She wrote, "The attached evidence demonstrates Ms. Hargrave's complaint is not a good faith concern about child welfare, but a coordinated effort to extort settlement funds from Mr. Arendt. I respectfully request this matter be referred to the Georgia State Bar for investigation of Ms. Hargrave's attorney, Mark Delacroix, for potential Rule 3.1 violations, frivolous claims. Helena attached the email to her draft DA response and saved it. She'd send both on Sunday night, giving Lucas time to review, but one question still gnawed at her. What documents had Vanessa scanned on September 10th? Helena pulled up the credit card statement again and found the scanning service. DocuScan Pro, Atlanta. She called the number and reached a voicemail. She left another message, this time citing a legal investigation and requesting records of Vanessa's transaction. Her phone buzzed. Another email, this time from her office manager. The landlord just filed a motion to strike your witness list. They're claiming you can't represent the tenants if you're under ethics review. Hearing is Monday 9 a.m. You need to be there. Helena closed her laptop and stared at the ceiling. She couldn't be in two places at once, and for the first time in her career she didn't know which battle to fight first. But then her phone buzzed again. A text from Luca, sent from Lucas's phone. Helena, my dad says you're helping us. Thank you. Clarence says thank you too. Helena looked at her bracelet. Her father had told her once, you don't choose fights because they're easy. You choose them because they're right. She texted back, tell Clarence he's very welcome. Then she opened her calendar and started rearranging her life. Sunday morning, Helena flew back to Atlanta on a 6 a.m. flight. She landed at 9:47, drove straight to her Charleston office, and spent 4 hours prepping her colleague, a second-year associate named Marissa Chen, to cover the eviction hearing on Monday. Marissa was sharp, thorough, and terrified, but Helena walked her through every argument, every exhibit, every question the judge might ask. You can do this, Helena said at 2 p.m., packing her files into a box. The landlord's motion is garbage. Stick to the facts, cite the lease clauses, and don't let them bully you into procedural traps. Marissa nodded, fingers drumming on her coffee cup. And if they bring up your ethics review? Tell the judge it's unrelated and pending. If he presses, say you're fully authorized to represent the tenants under supervisory agreement, which you are. Okay. Marissa exhaled. Okay, I've got this. Helena drove back to the airport and caught a 5:30 p.m. flight to Atlanta. By 7 p.m. she was at Lucas's townhouse in Buckhead, a 3-story brick building with a gated front yard and security cameras covering every angle. Lucas answered the door, Luca at his side, Clarence under the boy's arm. We ordered Thai food, Lucas said. Hope that's okay. Helena stepped inside. The house was warm, lived in, toys in the corner, school drawings on the fridge, a stack of medical bills on the kitchen counter. Nothing like the sterile penthouse she'd imagined a billionaire would live in. They ate at the kitchen table, pad thai, spring rolls, mango sticky rice. Luca told Helena about the soccer game in Marietta, about how he'd scored a goal in the second half, about how his coach said he had good instincts. Lucas listened, one hand on his son's shoulder, and Helena saw the truth Vanessa had tried to twist. This wasn't a neglectful parent. This was a man rebuilding a life after loss. At 8:30 p.m., Luca went upstairs to bed. Lucas poured 2 glasses of water and sat across from Helena at the table. I reviewed your DA response, he said. It's perfect. It's thorough. Perfect would be if we didn't need it. Lucas almost smiled. Fair. He opened his laptop and pulled up a file. I got the security footage from the airport. TSA sent it Friday. 23 minutes, 4 camera angles, time-stamped. Helena leaned forward. Show me. Lucas played the video. The first angle showed gate B12 from above. Wide shot, black and white, timestamp in the corner. 09/14/22 EST, November 7th, 2025. Helena watched herself sit down, phone in hand, canvas tote beside her. 30 seconds later, Lucas approached with Luca. The boy's breathing was visible even on camera. Shallow, labored. The second angle showed the gate desk. Lucas handed the birth certificate to Linda Marsh at 09/17/08. Marsh studied it, glanced at Helena, then called Helena over. Helena walked to the desk at 09/17/34, ID in hand. They spoke for 41 seconds. Marsh printed boarding passes at 09/19/02. The third angle showed the jetway entrance. Helena, Lucas, and Luca walked through at 09:21:17. Lucas carried Luca, and Helena carried both their bags. No one stopped them. No one questioned them. The fourth angle showed the concourse. At 09:18:46, Vanessa Hargrave stood 15 feet from the gate desk, phone raised, filming. At 09:19:51, she adjusted her red scarf, slow, deliberate pull, then walked toward the security exit. Helena paused the video and zoomed in on Vanessa's hand. The scarf wasn't just fabric. It had a pattern, geometric, repetitive, like a signature woven into silk. She wore that scarf every day, Lucas said quietly. Even after I fired her. It was her mother's. She treated it like armor. Helena zoomed in further. At the corner of the scarf, barely visible, was a small monogram. VH. Good, Helena said, because that scarf is about to become evidence. She pulled up the CCTV, still showing Vanessa at 09:19:51, and saved it as a separate file. CCTV, Gate B12, Vanessa Hargrave, 09:19:51 EST JPG. The image showed Vanessa's face, her phone, and the scarf. Clear, unmistakable, time-stamped. Then Helena pulled up her own photo from that morning, the one she'd taken at 09:16 while sitting at the gate. It showed her canvas tote, her phone, and, resting on top of her bag, her father's leather bracelet. The photo's XIF data confirmed. November 7, 2025, 8:09:16:43 EST, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, Concourse D, Gate B12. Helena added both images to the evidence log. Then she pulled up the gate logs from Linda Marsh. Marsh's handwritten notes included a timestamp, 09:19:02 EST, boarded Med Pri 047, H. Prado, Temp Guardian, L. Arendt Jr., minor, L. Arendt Sr., father. No incident, Form ADA 14 filed. Helena cross-referenced the timestamps. 3 sources, 3 timestamps, 3 confirmations that everything had happened exactly as Helena and Lucas claimed. This is the triad, Helena said. Lucas looked up. The what? Physical evidence, neutral witness, external authority. It's the triangle prosecutors use to lock down a case. We have the CCTV and the EXIF data. That's physical. We have Linda Marsh and the gate logs. That's the witness. And we have TSA and Delta's medical priority protocol. That's the authority. Lucas stared at the screen. Vanessa can't argue with this. She can try, but she'll lose. Helena saved everything and added it to the DA response. Then she pulled up the document scanning receipt. DocuScan Pro, $340, September 10th. She'd left another voicemail that morning, and this time someone had called back. The manager, a woman named Tisha Moore. Tisha had confirmed Vanessa had scanned 47 pages on September 10, 2025, at 2:14 p.m. The documents included personal emails, text screenshots, and photos of the interior of Lucas's townhouse, specifically Lucas' bedroom, the kitchen, and the study. She was building a dossier, Helena said, trying to manufacture evidence before you fired her. Lucas's jaw tightened. What photos? Helena pulled up Tisha's email. The receipt included low-resolution previews of 12 images. Helena zoomed in on the first. Lucas's bedroom, unmade bed, clothes on the floor. The second, the kitchen sink, dishes stacked. The third, Lucas's study, papers scattered on the desk. These are the photos in the custody motion, Lucas said. The ones Claire supposedly took to show neglect. Except Vanessa took them. On September 10th, while she still had access to your house. Lucas stood and paced to the window. She staged the whole thing. She staged the whole thing, Helena confirmed, and then she recruited Claire to testify. Helena added the scanning receipt to the evidence log, along with Tisha Moore's statement confirming the transaction. Then she opened the DA response and added a final section. Chain of custody. September 10th to November 7th, 2025. September 10th, 2:14 p.m. Est. V. Hargrave scans 47 pages at DocuScan Pro. Receipt DS09-Wait-4721. Pages include unauthorized photos of L. Arendt's residence. Helena printed the timeline and handed it to Lucas. This is what we send tomorrow night. Lucas read it twice. Then he looked up, and for the first time since gate B12 he smiled. Not tired, not cautious, but real. Vanessa's done, he said. Not yet, but she will be. Helena closed her laptop and glanced at the clock. 10:03 p.m. In 21 hours, the DA response was due. In 35 hours, the bar complaint hearing would begin. And in 48 hours, she'd know whether she still had a career. But for now, she had proof. And proof was the only thing that mattered. Monday morning, Helena woke at 5:30 a.m. in the guest room of Lucas's townhouse. She dressed in the same navy suit she'd worn to gate B12, checked her email. Marissa had sent a thumbs-up emoji from the eviction hearing, which meant the judge hadn't thrown them out, and went downstairs. Lucas was already in the kitchen, making coffee. Luca sat at the table eating cereal. Clarence propped beside his bowl. Big day, Lucas said, handing Helena a mug. Big day, Helena agreed. At 9 a.m. they drove to the Fulton County Courthouse. The bar complaint hearing wasn't public, but the custody motion hearing was. Scheduled for 10:30 a.m. in family court, Judge Carolyn Briggs presiding. Vanessa would be there. Mark Delacroix would be there. And so would Lucas's family attorney, a woman named Stephanie Ortiz who'd flown in from D.C. overnight. They met Stephanie in the courthouse lobby. She was 50s, silver hair, sharp eyes, carrying a leather briefcase that looked older than Helena. I reviewed your DA response, Stephanie said without preamble. It's the most thorough takedown I've seen in 20 years. Vanessa's attorney is going to fold. Or he's going to double down, Helena said. Stephanie almost smiled. Then we bury him. At 10:15 a.m. they entered courtroom 4C. The room was small, wood-paneled, fluorescent lit. Vanessa sat at the plaintiff's table with Mark Delacroix, a man in his 40s, slicked hair, expensive suit. Claire Mendoza sat 2 rows behind them. Vanessa wore the red scarf. Helena's pulse kicked up. She pulled out her phone and took a photo, discreet, angled, of Vanessa adjusting the scarf. Same slow pull, same deliberate motion. The timestamp read, 10:17:23, EST. Judge Briggs entered at 10:31. Everyone stood. The judge was 60s, no nonsense, reading glasses on a chain. Case FC 2025-8847, Hargrave versus Arendt. Mr. Delacroix, you filed the emergency custody motion. Make your case. Delacroix stood, Your Honor. We're here because Lucas Arendt has repeatedly demonstrated a pattern of neglect and disregard for his son's safety. Our witness, Claire Mendoza, observed Mr. Arendt leaving his son unattended in a public parking lot. Additionally, photographic evidence shows unsafe living conditions. Stephanie Ortiz stood. Your Honor, may I interject? Judge Briggs gestured. Go ahead, Ms. Ortiz. Stephanie opened her briefcase and pulled out a document. This is a GPS log for October 25, 2025, the date Ms. Mendoza claims she saw Mr. Arendt at a Whole Foods in Buckhead. The log shows Mr. Arendt was actually 28 miles away at a soccer field in Marietta. I have 18 photos, a witness list of 12 parents, and a coach's statement corroborating his location. She handed the packet to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. Delacroix's expression didn't change, but his jaw tightened. Judge Briggs reviewed the documents. Ms. Mendoza, is this your testimony? That Mr. Arendt was in Buckhead on October 25? Claire Mendoza stood, hands clasped. Yes, Your Honor. And you're certain of the date? Yes. Judge Briggs looked at the GPS log, then at the photos. These photos are time-stamped. They show Mr. Arendt in Marietta at 4:47 p.m. You claim he was in Buckhead at the same time? Claire hesitated. Maybe I got the date wrong. Maybe? Judge Briggs set the packet down. Ms. Mendoza, this court does not appreciate false testimony. I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for perjury review. Claire sat down, face pale. Delacroix cleared his throat. Your Honor, even if the date is in question, the photographic evidence of unsafe conditions. Stephanie cut him off. Your Honor, those photos were taken by Vanessa Hargrave on September 10th, 4 days before she was terminated for theft. She scanned them at DocuScan Pro at 2:14 p.m. I have the receipt and a statement from the business owner. The photos were staged to manufacture evidence for this motion. She handed another packet to the bailiff. Judge Briggs reviewed it, then looked at Vanessa. Ms. Hargrave, did you take these photos? Vanessa adjusted her scarf, slow, deliberate. I took them because I was concerned about Luca's welfare. While you were employed as his nanny? Yes, and you didn't report your concerns to Child Protective Services, the pediatrician, or any mandated reporter? Vanessa hesitated. I reported them to my attorney. 2 months later, after Mr. Arendt fired you for stealing $11,000, Vanessa's fingers tightened on the scarf. Judge Briggs closed the file. Ms. Hargrave, this motion is dismissed. Furthermore, I'm ordering you to cease all contact with Mr. Arendt and his son. Any violation will result in a restraining order. She turned to Delacroix. Mr. Delacroix, I'm forwarding this case to the Georgia State Bar for review. Filing a custody motion based on fabricated evidence is a violation of Rule 3.1. You should know better. Delacroix stood. Your Honor, your client lied, your witness lied, and you brought it to my courtroom. We're done here. Judge Briggs stood and exited. The bailiff called the next case. Helena exhaled. Lucas reached over and squeezed her hand. Brief, warm. Vanessa stood gathering her papers. She looked at Lucas, then at Helena. Her expression was flat, unreadable. She adjusted her scarf one last time, then walked toward the exit. But Stephanie Ortiz wasn't done. Ms. Hargrave, Stephanie called. One more thing. Vanessa stopped. Stephanie pulled out a final document. This is a referral to the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, forwarding evidence of attempted fraud, theft, and malicious prosecution. I've also filed a copy with the Electronic Crimes Task Force, citing your use of stolen credit card funds to hire a private investigator and fabricate custody claims. You'll be receiving notice of a compliance review meeting, Friday, November 14th at 5 p.m. Vanessa's face went white. She didn't respond. She turned and walked out, scarf trailing behind her. Claire Mendoza followed 30 seconds later, head down. Delacroix lingered at his table, packing his briefcase with slow, mechanical motions. Helena watched him, waiting. Finally, he looked up. You know this isn't over. Helena stood. Yes, it is. She walked to the plaintiff's table and set down a single document, the CCTV still from gate B12, showing Vanessa filming with her phone, red scarf visible, monogram clear. At the bottom, Helena had written in pen, chain of custody. Your client's harassment is documented, time-stamped, and admissible. If she contacts Mr. Arendt again, this goes to the DA. Choose wisely. Delacroix read it, then looked at Helena. You're good. I'm thorough. Helena walked back to Lucas and Stephanie. They left the courtroom together, Luca waiting in the hallway with a security guard. When Lucas saw them, he ran to his father, Clarence bouncing in his hand. Did we win? Luca asked. 3 weeks later, Helena stood at the edge of a rooftop garden on Peachtree Street in Atlanta, watching the sun set over the city. The bar complaint hearing had been brief. Her colleagues testified about her pro bono work, her meticulous documentation, and her reputation for ethical practice. The panel had dismissed the complaint in 47 minutes. Vanessa Hargrave had been charged with identity fraud, filing a false police report, and theft. She'd accepted a plea deal that included restitution to Lucas and a suspended sentence pending completion of a mental health evaluation. Mark Delacroix had been suspended from the Georgia bar for 18 months pending ethics review. His firm had settled a disciplinary complaint with the state. He was no longer practicing law in Georgia. Claire Mendoza had testified to authorities that Vanessa had coerced her into lying about the grocery store incident, promising her money she never received. The DA had dropped her case in exchange for cooperation, and Dr. Anjali Patel had cleared Luca for surgery, which had gone perfectly. The boy was already back at soccer, his breathing clear, his energy restored. Recovery time, 8 days instead of 6 weeks. "You're going to fall off if you lean any further," a voice said behind her. Helena turned. Lucas stood in the doorway, holding 2 glasses of wine. He wore a charcoal suit and no tie, businessman casual, tired but present. "I was just thinking," Helena said. Lucas handed her a wine glass and leaned beside her on the railing. About how 3 weeks ago I thought I'd lose everything. My practice, my reputation, my credibility. And now? Now I'm standing on a rooftop in Atlanta with a CEO drinking wine I can't afford. And the case I thought would destroy me is already closed." Lucas smiled. 2 unlikely partnerships. They clinked glasses. The wine was dry, complex, nothing like the burnt coffee at Gate B12. "I invited you here for a reason," Lucas said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, cream-colored, thick paper, handwritten address in neat script. "Helena Prado." "What is this?" she asked. "Open it." Helena set down her wineglass and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter on letterhead from Arendt Global Solutions. She recognized Lucas's handwriting, the same efficient script from the authorization note at the gate. "Helena, 3 weeks ago, you made a choice that didn't benefit you. You risked your career for a stranger's kid. You slept in a hospital waiting room. You missed your own cases. You filed ethics responses when you should have been protecting your reputation. I've thought about how to repay that. Money felt insufficient. A thank you dinner felt incomplete." Then Luca asked me something. Did Helena help because she had to or because she wanted to? I realized the answer was both. You had to, because that's who you are. And you wanted to, because you understood something I'd forgotten, that some things matter more than winning. Enclosed is the deed to a commercial space on Magazine Street in Charleston. It's a 3-story building, recently renovated, with 2 offices on the ground floor and a meeting space on the second. The rent is $0 for the first 2 years, $1 per year thereafter. I want you to expand your tenants' rights practice. I want you to hire more attorneys, take more cases, help more families. And I want you to do it without the financial pressure that forces most pro bono work to be temporary. This isn't charity. It's investment. In you, in your practice, and in the belief that some people still fight for what's right. Lucas P.S. Luca insists you need to visit again soon. Clarence has opinions about your coffee making. Helena's hands trembled as she read it twice. 3 times. She didn't trust her voice, so she didn't speak. Lucas waited patiently, letting the silence stretch. Finally, she asked, "Why would you do this?" "Because you did what you did knowing you might lose everything. That's rare, and I wanted to make sure it didn't." Helena touched her bracelet, her father's, worn smooth from decades of courtroom fights. She'd worn it every day since Gate B12, and somewhere along the way it had stopped feeling like armor and started feeling like something else, like permission. "I don't know what to say," she said quietly. "Say you'll think about it." Helena looked out at Atlanta, at the city spreading beneath them in lights and shadows. She thought about the eviction hearing that Marissa had won. She thought about the 12 families who'd kept their apartments. She thought about the cases stacked on her desk in Charleston, waiting for someone who had time to fight them. "I don't need to think about it," she said. "Yes." Lucas exhaled, relief, gratitude, something deeper. He pulled something from his other pocket, a small box, velvet, no bigger than his palm. "This is separate," he said. Helena opened it. Inside was a bracelet, leather, identical to hers and Luca's, but threaded through the clasp was a single silver charm, a circle with an image stamped inside. Helena looked closer and realized what it was. A tiny photograph, microscopically detailed, showing 3 people, a man, a woman, a child, standing at a gate. Boarding pass visible. Timestamp sharp. Gate B12. November 7th, 2025. All 3 of them, captured in sterling silver. Luca chose the image, Lucas said. And he picked the bracelet. He said you needed one too, so we'd all have the same thing. Helena closed her fist around the bracelet, and for the first time in weeks she felt something release in her chest. Not victory. That was too small a word. Something closer to completion. She slipped the bracelet on beside her father's. The leather was soft, new, unmarked. But it felt like it had always been there. "Tell him thank you," she whispered. "Tell him yourself. He's downstairs. We're staying in the hotel. He wanted to hear about your favorite food so we could order it."
He also wanted to know if you'd attend his school assembly next week. He's being recognized for courage under pressure. Helena almost laughed. He's 7. He's 7 and wiser than most adults. He learned that from watching you. They stood on the rooftop for another hour, watching the city transition from sunset to twilight. They talked about the new office in Charleston, about cases Helena wanted to take, about what it meant to build something that lasted.
They didn't talk about Vanessa or Mark Delacroix or any of the people who'd tried to weaponize fear. They were already gone. At 8:47 p.m., they went downstairs to the hotel restaurant. Luca was waiting at a corner table, Clarence positioned at his side, wearing a tiny tuxedo bib that someone had fashioned for him. When he saw Helena, his face lit up. No hesitation, no caution, just joy. "Helena," he called. "We ordered pizza. Is pizza okay?" Helena slid into the booth beside him. "Pizza is perfect." Luca handed her Clarence. He wanted to say hello first. Helena held the stuffed elephant, its remaining ear soft against her palm. She thought about Luca 3 weeks ago on a plane to Dallas, breathing shallow and quick, afraid. And now, here at a dinner table, laughing at something his father said, completely present, completely safe. "You know what my teacher asked me today?" Luca said between bites of pizza. "What?" Helena asked. "She asked me what I want to be when I grow up. And I said, a lawyer like Helena. And my dad said, that's a lot of school. And I said, yeah, but Helena helps people, so it's worth it." Lucas reached over and squeezed Helena's hand under the table. She squeezed back. The pizza arrived and they ate and talked until 10:30 p.m. Luca fell asleep between bites, head tilting toward Helena's shoulder. Lucas carried him upstairs to their suite, and Helena waited in the lobby, scrolling through emails on her phone. One was from her office manager. The landlord had formally withdrawn the eviction appeal and offered a settlement. $67K in back rent, paid over 3 years, no penalty clauses. 12 families would keep their homes. Another was from a journalist. "Would you comment on the Arendt custody case? We're writing a follow-up story on frivolous custody motions." Helena replied, "No comment. All relevant parties have moved forward. That's the story that matters." Lucas returned at 10:52 p.m. He's asleep. Didn't even finish undressing. They took the elevator to the roof garden. Private, secure, just the two of them. The city was quiet now, reduced to scattered lights and distant traffic. "Thank you," Lucas said, "for everything." "Thank you for the office," Helena replied, "for the bracelet, for letting me help." "That's not what I mean." He turned to face her, silhouetted against the Atlanta skyline. "Thank you for reminding me that some people still fight, that some people still believe the truth matters, that some people would risk everything for a kid they didn't know." Helena thought about her father, standing in courtrooms with stacks of rent receipts refusing to let injustice calcify into law. She thought about Luca, asking if she was going to stay. She thought about the moment at gate B12 when she'd decided that some things matter more than self-preservation. "My father used to say," Helena began, "that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being terrified and choosing the right thing anyway. Boundaries aren't about building walls. They're about knowing where you end and someone else begins. And justice isn't about punishment. It's about restoring what was taken." Lucas listened without interrupting. "I lost my father 15 years ago," Helena continued, "but I still wear his bracelet. And now I wear bracelets with you and Luca, people I met at a gate desk 3 weeks ago. And I think that's what matters. Not winning, not being right, not even being safe. It's the people we choose to help and the reminders we carry that help is always possible. Lucas reached out and touched the bracelet Luca had chosen for her, the one with the tiny photograph stamped inside. He's going to remember this, Lucas said. Years from now, when he's older, he'll remember the woman at gate B12 who saved his life. And he'll make better choices because of it. So will I. That's enough, Helena said quietly. That's everything. They stood on the rooftop until midnight, watching the city breathe beneath them. Cars moving, lights flickering, lives unfolding in the darkness. And for the first time in weeks, Helena didn't think about the DA inquiry or the bar complaint or the cases waiting in Charleston. She thought about simple things: the weight of a leather bracelet, the sound of a child laughing, the knowledge that you'd chosen correctly when the choice was hardest. At 12:14 a.m., she and Lucas said goodnight in the hotel lobby. She didn't kiss him, not yet, maybe not ever. Some stories don't need that ending. Some endings are cleaner, truer, when they leave room for what comes next. Come back soon, Lucas said. For Luca's assembly, at least. I'll be there, Helena promised. She drove back to Charleston through the night, arriving at her apartment at 5:30 a.m. She pulled up the deed Lucas had enclosed, the commercial space on Magazine Street. The photos showed tall windows, brick walls, morning light streaming through skylights. Enough room for 4 attorneys, a paralegal, a receptionist. Enough room to help more families, take more cases, build something that lasted. She pulled up her phone and texted Marissa, "Ready to become an associate partner?" Marissa's reply came 20 minutes later. "Yes." "Are you serious?" "Helena, completely. Come by the office Monday. We have planning to do." She set down her phone and looked at her bracelets. 3 circles of leather, 3 different histories, now woven together by choice. Her father's civil rights work in Pittsburgh, Rachel's love threaded through Luca's childhood. And now Helena's, added to the chain, connecting strangers across decades and cities and impossible moments at an airport gate. She thought about what her father had told her the last time she'd seen him alive, at a hospital in Charleston, 2 days before the stroke took him. "You're going to do good work. The kind that doesn't get headlines, doesn't make money, doesn't make life easy, but you'll do it anyway, because you'll understand something most people spend their lives forgetting, that justice isn't a luxury, it's a requirement." Helena touched the photograph embedded in the new bracelet. 3 people at a gate captured in silver, permanent, real. She understood now what he'd meant. 3 weeks ago, she'd walked into gate B12 and met a stranger at the worst moment of his life. She'd made a choice that could have destroyed her, and that choice had instead rebuilt her, not into someone safer or smarter, but into someone whole. Because sometimes courage isn't about winning a case. It's about understanding that some things, dignity, justice, the protection of a child, the courage of strangers, matter more than safety. It's about knowing that bracelets worn smooth by decades of fighting can be passed forward, shared, made into something that connects us all. And sometimes the best stories don't end with triumph or headlines or settlements. They end with a woman in an apartment at dawn, looking at 3 circles of leather on her wrist, knowing she'd chosen correctly, knowing that somewhere in Dallas, a CEO was sleeping beside his son, knowing that somewhere in Atlanta, lawyers were drafting motions that would change how custody cases were handled, knowing that somewhere in Charleston, 12 families would wake up in homes they got to keep, and knowing that next week she'd attend a school assembly and watch a 7-year-old boy receive recognition for courage under pressure. She'd clap louder than anyone else. She'd cry quietly in the back row. And she'd wear her bracelets, all 3 of them, as proof that truth still matters, that boundaries still protect us, that justice, real and quiet and carried in leather worn smooth by decades of fighting, is always worth the cost. If this gave you courage, subscribe and tell us. What would you have done?